Hello, members of the community. We've got a podcast update for you all about the current status and future of Long Story Studios. My name is Robbie Pierce, and I'm here today with, if we want to start, shoot, this doesn't really work because I don't know if we're all on the same orientation. I'm here with Aaron, Aiden, and Matthew. How are you guys today?
I'm doing great, Robbie.
I'm doing well.
Doing all right.
So the biggest thing, Aaron, if you wanted to take it away.
So after a long time of development with Unit 108, we have decided to stop development on the project and move on to a new project coming in. We feel as if we've grown a lot as a team with Unit 108. We started off very early on in our game development career. We were pretty inexperienced, and a lot of the base game was built on that inexperience. Eventually, we've come into what product we have right now, and we feel like we should just release it out as development has slowed down and stalled.
We know exactly what we're doing for our next project. We're not ready to announce it yet. It is 100%, barring acts of God, not going to take nearly as long as Unit 108. It will be out relatively soon. But like Aaron sort of said, it was almost, for me personally, it was almost like this feeling of having outgrown Unit 108 because we started it like over a year ago. And it's just, you look back through the files and it's like, oh, this isn't how we code anymore. This isn't how we make sprite sheets anymore. This isn't how we animate anymore. Just from all this experience with either solo projects or like class assignments or doing game jams, which we'll get to in a little bit. It really doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like the type of game that we make anymore.
Right. And yeah, as you were saying, we've had through numerous experiences through our numerous game jams that we've gone through. We've just noticed that there's a lot. We've gained a lot more ideas on any future games or how we make games as of now that we want to implement into a fresh new project.
So I know Aaron was the lead programmer, and he's had a lot more experience with everything programming wise. But Robbie and I, who are in charge of all the art for the game, have definitely created our own styles over time, and it's really hard to go back to creating art for Unit 108 in the style that we originally started with, since that was the style we developed with the little experience we had, and over time we refined our style so much that nothing is compatible with the old art, and it just looks inconsistent, which is another reason why we decided to go this way.
And if I may add to that,
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was just one of those things where I started in the middle of the development of the game as a brand new game developer. I didn't know what I was doing, and I never got to see exactly what the creative vision that Unit 108 had from its initial development. And I never got to fully get behind the project. I was kind of almost going through emotions with the development I was putting in, and it kind of made it a little bit harder for me. So
Right.
Yeah, I think it just, everybody sort of, like we've already said, got kind of burnt out, felt kind of outpaced by it, or that they had already outpaced the project itself. And we're really looking forward to having a fresh start. To revisit an earlier talking point, we all talked about how we've had game jams or solo projects or other endeavors of that type. And one thing we did over the past couple of weekends was we participated in Ludum 46 as a team. And then a couple of us participated in a game jam the next weekend for Video Game Development Club out of UC San Diego that had its first ever remote jam. So let's start with Ludum Dare and just sort of talk of our experiences with that. So we made a game titled, this is bad, we ended up on Crazy Party Resuscitation, right?
that is correct.
Yes.
Okay, because we were debating that name up until the 11th hour. Ink was drying on the page when we were like, no, wait.
Queer Party Resuscitation.
That was it's a rhythm game where you play as a DJ and you have to keep the party alive. And I think it was probably one of the first game jams where we were all contributing in an equal capacity. Because almost everybody on the team goes to UC San Diego, and then I go to Sacramento State. So it was like I'm the one who's dialing in via conference call, and everyone else is actually in a room.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with everything having to be remote lately, it was the first game jam where I feel like we were all on an equal playing field. How did you guys feel during Ludum Dare 46?
Well, I definitely like the remote setting. I like how everyone was on an equal playing field, like you said. Because I remember Ludum 45 when we were on the room, and then we just tuned in Robbie on a TV.
There's that picture of me on the TV like I'm a villain in
Yeah.
a James Bond movie.
And that felt weird. And I can definitely see from like, especially if I was in your shoes, I would feel very excluded, right? So I'm glad that we were able to just all like be on the same boat there.
Another thing about the remote setting that I liked a lot was since we usually are in one room, it makes it really hard to like take naps and stuff because you're always in an uncomfortable spot. I remember one of the last game jams I did, I
Yes.
slept on the floor inside my piano case, and that was not very fun.
I remember
But-
that. He was like in a body bag, dude.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I used my jacket as a pillow and my piano case as a blanket. But
And the room had open windows, so imagine someone just walking by and seeing that.
so it was a lot nicer if I took a couple naps during this remote game jam, and it was really nice because my bed was right behind me, and I could just knock out whenever I wanted and get back to work, as well as being able to communicate with everyone equally, not feel like someone who like Robbie who was not there was feeling left out.
Yeah.
It was kind of like now everyone is in my boat.
Everyone is
Now
here.
you all see what it's like to live in my world.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the actual game that we made?
I'm really happy with the concept. I think that it could have gone with some more planning, but overall we came up with something unique, and we came up with a mechanic and followed through and made it a reality. And I feel like our presentation with music, artwork, and everything the way it felt was pretty competent for the little time we had.
On the programming side, at the end it sort of worked out. It's just like when we get some like lag issues where when you're lagging everything gets out of sync. But I feel like given the time we had, we like implemented a music system for like that is something that's actually pretty complicated. Sort of well. Like I feel like given like a week, we would be able to have like perfect that music system a little bit better. But with our time frame, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, I know for me, I struggled a lot with trying to create the system for the mechanic. Like, I think I went through like 10 to 15 different iterations, and it was kind of tough to try to do in that short time frame. So like, yeah, exactly like what you were saying. If we did have like that more time to develop it, we could have definitely refined what we had.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, that's just how a game jam is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our second rhythm game. And that time I didn't have to measure notes.
Yeah, right.
I learned that there are better ways.
But I had to measure notes.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only one on the team that apparently doesn't know how to read music time. Everyone else was talking about like, oh, it's this many measures of a bar, and I'm like, y'all sure are saying words. So the week after Ludum Dare 46 was the VGDC game jam, and Aaron, as an officer of VGDC, would you like to explain to the people what this is?
So every quarter for UCSD, Video Game Development Club has its own game jam that it hosts, but normally it's behind like a closed room. So because of like current world conditions, we had our first remote game jam, and it was completely open to the public. So you don't have to be a UCSD student to join. So Robbie, for example, was able to fully participate without doubt of shenanigans going on. But regardless of that, we had a huge turnout like compared to what we normally get, because the past few game jams that I've been participating in for VGDC were basically just the officers making games, and it worked out. And we were surprised. We had 14 submissions, 13 official. One was a little bit late, but yeah, 14 submissions, which is a ton. I think that's the most the club's ever gotten for any game jam.
So, Aaron, you did make a game jam yourself, did you not? A game jam game?
Yes, I did. I made a game about an office chair called Office Rollers. So the theme of the game jam, by the way, was limited movement or restricted movement, actually. So, we had like a whole club planning phase just to throw ideas out, and someone brought up an idea of an office chair, and I thought I was like, wait, that's actually pretty good, because when you're rolling out an office chair, you're sort of restricted to which direction it's turning. I mean, I'm sure you can do some officer strafing, but for the most part, you're only going forward, right? So I was like, that sounds like it fits the theme pretty well. So the way I made my game is I had only one button, which was spacebar, and you would hold it to charge up and then launch yourself forward, and it would cause you to spin because, office chairs spin when you're moving around usually. and that's going to change the direction that you're facing, and then you're eventually picking up like these folders with paperwork, and you're essentially doing work, quote unquote, with the occasional filing cabinet blocking your way.
Yeah, the most hazardous office known to man.
Yeah, you're on
The top of a pillar in Green Hill Zone.
Yes, if you fall off, you get fired. They don't have workers' comp there.
So, one funny thing about the way you made your game engine is that if you fall off the edge of the pillar, you can just boost infinitely and delay your like die time by half a minute.
Yeah, and also there's bullet time in that game too. So, yeah.
There were a lot of games in that game jam that had bullet time, actually, for whatever reason. It's
right.
like 3.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because like when you restricted your movement, you sort of want another dimension of control. So time, I guess, is another thing you can modify.
Restricted time.
Exactly.
You should just make the next game jam theme be bullet time.
Bullet time.
Oh my god.
And Robbie, you directly participate in the game jam. Tell us about your experience in game.
Yeah, so I made a solo project called Passage, which was the first solo project that I've like conceptualized, started, developed, completed, released. Unfortunately, it's in sort of basically a permanent beta state because it doesn't have any audio. So I kind of finished by the skin of my teeth because I was unfortunately working during this game jam. So I feel like, and not calling Johns or nothing, but I had like 33% less time than anybody else did. So I wasn't really able to do the polishing touches I wanted to, like audio. Some content had to be cut. But basically, the game is you start off in a little corridor and you have to stay on the path. That's what the game tells you to do. But the more you explore, the more you can find, and that's all it is. Because I don't mean to be pretentious and make it sound like it's a good game or anything, but it's meant to be something you go in blind on. But it was a lot of fun making it. I use the engine Construct 3, which is basically Baby's first engine in that you don't need to actually know how to code. It runs off if X, then Y, like logic solutions.
But that's coding.
Yeah, but it's like coding with training wheels on.
Can we go back to how you called it? Baby's first. It's like Little Tykes coding.
Little Tykes coding, which is probably a real product you could buy in stores. But no, making it was a fun experience. Some of the sprite work I'm really genuinely proud of. I feel like it was really good for time constraints and just in and of itself. I explored a lot of themes with like how I did storytelling in that game and how I did movement in that game that I think I would like to replicate in future works. So we'll see what happens. I encourage people to play all the games we've mentioned. They're available for free. We'll post the itch link in the description or the tweet or whatever of this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one to our Ludum Dare project too.
That as well. I also really like some of the sprite work we did in that game. Like I'm really proud of the DJ and his booth specifically.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of strife with like picking an art style, but I think the end product was it all came together. So I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you. No, but I mean, well, I feel like that's it. To bookend this, I feel like that's another reason why we chose to move on from 108 kind of hastily, just because between the game jam projects and me and Aiden have some solo projects, and Aaron, you've had stuff for classes and so on and so on and so on. I feel like everybody has been experimenting with new art styles or new coding engines or whatever, which is why we almost feel kind of limited by this project. But at the same time, moving forward, even if it's not under the best circumstances, we feel very optimistic about what we can do with the remainder of this year and going beyond that. As for that next project, I feel like based off the Unit 108 experience, we don't want to announce it until we know for sure when we're going to be done with it. But given the scope of the project and the sort of foothold we already have on it, I think you can expect news relatively soon.
Yep.
So until next time, we have been Team LS, and thank you for listening.